Well, good afternoon, very wonderful viewers out there from wherever you're seated, from home, from your place of business. I know majority of persons will be at home. Today we are enjoying a double celebration. We celebrate with our brothers at the northern part of Nigeria, especially our Muslim brothers, as they have their day one of the Eid al-Kabir. And of course, very importantly, we celebrate our children, today being the 2026 edition of the Children's Day celebration. And so we really congratulate our children. This is their day. And we urge mommies and daddies out there, take time to celebrate the children. Various administrators at different levels, at the state and local government levels, are doing that, even at the federal level. They are celebrating the children. Churches are celebrating the children. In the nucleus of the society, the families, try to take a little time and celebrate that child of yours, that daughter of yours, that son of yours, those children of yours. Thank you so much for staying with us at Uyo Catholic Media Center. At this podcast session, we are seated here. I'm not just here alone. I am here with a very wonderful gentleman here. On my left, I have with me Barrister Michael Benson. Please, Barrister, could you say hi to the people?
Hi, happy Children's Day to our children and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you so much. It's nice having you with us here, Barrister Michael Benson. And on my right, I have Mr. Cosmos Eshet. Want to say something to the people?
Thank you very much, Mr. Ezekiel. Good afternoon, dear viewers. Thank you very much for hooking up here in Uyo Media Center. And happy celebrations. It's a holiday. We understand that most of us are not government workers. Most of us work in the private firm. Most of us are entrepreneurs. But today is public holiday. So happy holidays. And welcome to this podcast session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cosmos Eshet. It's nice having you with us. And of course, I had to do this lastly, though not trying to circumvent the convention. My name is Ezekiel Utang, otherwise known as MC Black, the Black Dancing MC with the microphone at your event. We're seated this afternoon to bring to you something that has eaten deep into the fabrics of a society. It has really dealt with some persons in the society, within the country, within our state of Akwa Ibom, and our various communities. We are here to discuss very briefly landlord-tenant relationship, matters arising. Landlord-tenant relationship, matters arising. This is what we are here to discuss. This is what we want you to equally send in your contributions or questions. Of course, you have us on Facebook, Uyo Catholic Media, and you can also reach us via WhatsApp number 080-2537-5575. Take that again, 080-2537-5575 for this particular session. And so, who is a landlord? That's the question. And who is a tenant? And so I would love to stay with Barrister Michael Benson. From his point of view as a lawyer, I think he really has what it takes to define who a landlord is. Deba.
Thank you very much. I think to put it very simply, a landlord is a landowner, a person who has a house that makes it available for a tenant to rent. A tenant is a person who comes in to take the position of the landlord's property for a rent as consideration. It's very important. Although there are situations where a tenant could also be allowed to have access to property without necessarily paying rent, which is a tenant at will. But generally, tenants generally pay rent, and the tenancies it must be over an agreed period, which is renewable from time to time.
Thank you so much, Barrister Benson. That is very wonderful, very apt response. The one who owns is the landlord, and the one who comes to hire or to spend some time with a cost is the tenant. And so we want to consider the two parties, their relationship. What does it look like? I am with a legal luminary and I am with a layman. Permit me to use that description for the duo respectively. And so, from my right, Mr. Cosmos, what do you see as being, how do you view the relationship between a landlord and a tenant?
I think the relationship between a landlord and a tenant depends on the two individuals concerned. That is to say, it depends on the person of the landlord and the person of the tenant. Because there are instances where a landlord and a tenant maintain a very cordial relationship. Sometimes they live as brothers, as father and mother, as siblings, and all of that.
That's true.
But there are also instances whereby the two are very hostile to each other. They are always at loggerheads. But putting this into perspective, I think the relationship between a landlord and a tenant should be a cordial one. Being in the sense that before I come as a tenant to take possession of the property for a certain period of time, we must have had agreement. So it is not just like what the bird described as a tenant at will. I have paid for it, and I am not taking it forcefully, and it is not also permanently. It is for a period of time. So I see no reason why we should be at loggerheads with each other. It should be a very cordial relationship, but most times it's not always the case. We are also very much aware of the fact that there could be some factors that could influence this relationship. You know, there are instances whereby the relationship began on a very good note, we are very cordial, but along the line we lose out. So there must have been something that I, as a tenant, must have done that did not really augur well with the landlord. But generally, it should be a cordial relationship between these two.
Well said. So are you trying to say that sometimes what happens in the open market, you know, this thing is buying and selling. Yes, I have something to give to offer and you need the services. So what happens in the open market? The buyer and the seller, they throw tantrums at each other. Do you have such scenarios? Maybe do you experience such things where in your vicinity where you live and all that?
Yeah. I have experienced it, not directly, but I almost had a direct experience of it. But not for the fact that I tried to put on my gentleman clothes that day. I think, yeah.
I hope his landlord is not watching.
my former landlord.
Oh, former landlord.
In context. Because I know, most times these persons, I'm trying to put this into context. There are times you know that as a tenant you're supposed to pay. Not just after paying your rent, you're supposed to pay for the NEPA bill, for utility bill. You know that most times the landlord, you need to pay to the NEPA through the landlord. And there have been instances, like in my case, where we keep paying, but you discover that the power holding people will still come to cut the light. Yeah, because what we paid to the landlord was not remitted to the proper channel. And when it happened that way, we had to call the man for questioning, for some, would I use questioning for some inquiries?
Accountability.
We had to make some inquiries, and he was not accountable. He was not even ready. He was telling us that we are just tenants, we don't have the right to ask him any questions and all of that. So we managed the situation amicably, I think, but at other instances, it might have escalated into something else.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cosmos. Yes, we have these things happening in our society where we have the cordiality, 100% cordiality, 70-80% cordiality between the landlord and the tenants, and in some compounds you find out that you always have a war zone on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. The process of getting rent from a tenant becomes a warlike kind of scenario, but we thank God that we always try to see how to quell these differences. However, I would want to let us hear from the legal point of view. What are these provisions? Are they set down rules? Does the law make provision for legal boundaries as per relationship? What are those things, the do's and don'ts within the context of a landlord and a tenant relationship?
Thank you very much. I think I want to start from the social perspective before I get to the legal perspective. Landlord-tenant relationship. I think a good landlord, a good man will be a good landlord. A good woman or man will be a good tenant. So, if you have a bad man that is now becoming a landlord, it's certainly going to be a bad landlord, a bad person. So it's not relationship wise, good people will make good relationship.
Yes.
So I'm starting from the sociological perspective. Then legally, certainly that's why we have laws. Laws defines the rules and duties that guide every person in the society. The landlord has a duty to, in fact, even before the house the person gets into it, the house is expected to be in a tenantable condition. That means those things that are expected, that a landlord should fix in place. The place should be, it should be well constructed. Those things, where there is need for water, there is water. Especially those things that have been made known, or the tenant believes that those things should be there. That is not to say you go to a place you have seen there was no water and you come tomorrow and say no, you had expected. No, you had seen, if you had come there, you have seen that there was no water and you paid for it. At least that is, but generally, the place that is to be rented at is expected to be in a tenantable condition, especially where those things have been promised the landlord, where have been promised the tenant. Where the tenant was coming in was expecting, maybe he came in, he saw a tank there and was expecting, he should automatically follow that there should be water there. If it is later discovered that the person, and maybe he came in and paid huge money, believing that those facilities, those only to have paid, and maybe 2 days later as he moved in, he discovered there was no water, that the place has been disconnected from NEPA, public power supply for a long time now. He could take legal steps to say that, look, that places has not been put in tenantable condition as at the time that they moved in. So the tenant has rights, the landlord has rights, the tenant who is coming in. In fact, one of the things that I always tell people, we from time to time we prepare tenancy agreement, but in most cases those tenancy agreements are just general, regular things that you are supposed to do. But maybe for the purpose of making clarity, we reduce it to writing. If we say, oh, you should keep a place clean, with or without tenancy agreement, is the tenant not supposed to keep the place clean? If they say you are supposed to pay landlord in advance, but with or without, some tenants go and live in somebody's property 1 month, you are supposed to be a yearly paid tenant, your rent has expired since maybe January, up till now you have not paid. You have not even been humble enough to go and meet the landlord and say, oh, I don't have money, please give me next month. No, so in that case, those things are likely to raise conflicts and bring problems between the landlord and the tenant.
Thank you so much, Barrister Michael Benson. Because what is worth doing is worth doing well. But let me ask, based on the rights landlords have on their tenants, does the landlord have the right to, for instance, a tenant is owing and he hires some workers to climb the roof and uninstall the roofing sheets?
I think the law very seriously frowns at such self-help. In fact, there is a particular matter that I handle personally. I think that matter commenced in 2017, and we got judgments against the landlord in 2023. So the landlord, that's what he did. I think he said whether he wanted to renovate, but from all indication, he collected a higher money from some other person and tried to this. So that is completely unacceptable. And where such things happen, we have a right where you can sue and claim damages against the landlord. And maybe let me quickly also add, because there is a current case that hovers around my chambers, one of the lawyers in our chambers, where, and let me say this because of my direct, this, because there is also another matter that I'm also aware. A particular situation where maybe a landlord sells a house to another person. These are recurring issues. And I'm talking about a live matter that is happening. But a landlord sells a house to a new person who now buys the property. Please, as you are inheriting both assets and liability. So that does not mean that you can just wake up one morning because you have bought a house, you go in and remove the tenants as you like. No, you need to give them proper notices and this, and until those notices have expired, and you take those legal steps to remove them. Any attempt to remove them, there is a particular one that I know that is in which they're in court now, in which they have joined both the new landlord and the person that sold the property, which the person have paid and the rent is still subsisting, and the person just comes to remove the. So the law seriously frowns at self-help, because any attempt to do those things have the tendency to bring anarchy in the society.
So put simply, you don't take laws into your hands.
You must not take laws
into
your hands.
Even as a landlord.
In fact, in those cases, the truth of the matter is that, in fact, you can even take steps to even, it could also be both criminal and civil. Because criminal-wise, those are malicious damage to property. That alone, the police itself can take such. That matter that I'm telling you that I handle, the landlord was forced to face two suits. One was criminal, while we were also pursuing the other one. So at the end of the day, it was not very good for the landlord.
Wow. Okay. Dear viewers, those of you who are landlords out there, I hope you are really listening keenly to what Barrister Michael Benson has to say on your rights, on your privileges and the boundaries, how far you can go as a landlord in the course of dealing with your tenants, whether he or she is erring or not. Especially those of us, we this on the lighter note anyway, we have two categories of landlords. We have the landlords and we have what we call their land. Those ones who are landlords by inheritance. So sometimes these are the ones that really pose the problems to the tenants. But Barrister, let me ask this particular question, because this is something that a number of persons in the society have been complaining about. You go to pay for a house, an accommodation, and you discover that there has been a huge arrears of electricity bill. Is the intending tenant, the new tenant, under any obligation to clear that debt before he has electricity in his apartment which he has paid for? And how can that be handled?
Let me tell you, there is many people are not aware. There is the Electricity Act 2023. I think that was signed into law when that law must have been passed before. I think it's Tinubu that signed that law into office, into law, that act into law since shortly after he came in. That law says very clearly that a new tenant is not bound to pay any of those outstanding electricity. People should look at that law. There are lots of ingenious provisions there in that law. So where a tenant may come in, I think that should be drawn to the attention of the landlord. And where, if there is, he has the right to write to NEPA or to PhD or whoever is handling to draw the attention. He is not bound for any reason to be yoked with the electricity utility bill of the outgone tenant. Look at Electricity Act of 2023. I'm talking about a very recent enactment.
Thank you so much. Barrister, that has been a very wonderful contribution to this particular issue that we as tenants and we as landlords, we need to know our boundaries. We will go on a short break. When we return, we have something very important to bring up to bring to your notice, and how we can handle this matter in respect of this landlord-tenant relationship matters arising. That is the main matter that will be arising when we return from this short break.
Mami gendio, uban gendio, mami gendio. Say gendio, mami gendio. Say gendio, mami gendio. Ebre mami gendio.
Welcome back, viewers. We are still on the show, Landlord-Tenant Relationship Matters Arising. And so I really congratulate you and applaud your resilience to keep staying with us, and so that we can know our rights, our privileges, and the limitations to these rights and privileges. In the course of getting an apartment, in the course of getting a self-servicing apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, a 3-bedroom apartment, a flat, a 1-room, or whatever, there are these guys, the middlemen we call the agents. And a lot of experiences, sometimes a lot of awkward experiences have been faced by unsuspecting and desperate tenants, intending tenants. And so this is the main matter that we need to handle, that we need to look at. We need to dissect and say where the problem comes from and how these problems could be curbed. My brother, Cosmos, I know that you say you had your former landlord. Now you have a current landlord.
I have a new one now.
So, so I would want you to let us know what are your experiences in the course of getting your apartment, whether former or incumbent. What are your experiences, and what other experiences would you have had from people in the course of getting the apartments vis-a-vis these agents of people?
All right. The first apartment I got was a very smooth one. The process of getting it was very smooth. If I can remember, I got linked to it from a friend, though he was an agent, but I didn't go through any stress in getting that particular apartment. And again, the one I got not very long ago, the process was not funny. It wasn't funny because these agents can be very, very funny. Actually, they will get some money from you, which they describe as inspection fee. They will take you to an apartment that is very well known to them that this apartment either has been rented out or is not even due for renting. So they will just take you to the apartment to show you around. They know very well you wouldn't want the apartment, but they must have collected the inspection fee from you first. So at the end of the day, it becomes an exercise in futility, you know. So that has been my experience in terms of the middlemen, the agent. It was not very funny, but I thank God that eventually I got a good place to stay.
These people have made life to be so unbearable for unsuspecting intending tenants, and it has a way of even affecting your budget towards getting the place to stay. I want to ask our lawyer in the house, Barrister Michael, this agency of a thing, I am a house agent, I am this, I am that. Does it really have place in a place in the law? Does the law make is there any provisions for such a business? And if there is such provisions, to what extent could it be applied? What are the do's and don'ts? What are the boundaries?
Thank you very much. I think agency is part of the commercial law contract. So I think we should appreciate agents. For me, whenever I have opportunity to maybe look for a house, I always love agents, either as landlord, as tenants. For me, my argument, my reasoning is always that if you go on your own and you want to go and look for a house, I've seen people sometimes you are in your street, somebody comes to tell you, do you have a house here? It's very difficult because sometimes even the neighboring compound there may be a house and you may not know. So, but that is whereas in most cases when a house is available, the landlord may have 2, 3, 4 agents. He may call them and say, look, my house is available. So agents have the tendency to have more information. And if you see an agent, he has the potential to take you to 2, 3, 4 or more places where you have opportunity to make choice. I wouldn't join for any reason to condemn agents. In every profession, we always have the bad ones. But that should not for any reason make somebody to label the whole industry as not being good. Okay. Even in the legal profession, we have some bad ones.
Okay.
Among judges, we have bad. Among pastors,
yes,
we have bad ones. So,
yes.
But if you say, oh, because you have heard a bad story about a pastor, you will not go to church again. That's your business.
That's correct.
So, for me, the agents have their roles to play. People complain about the money. If somebody says, okay, bring sometimes 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, for me that is not much. When I look at, because from my experience, you can go. If you have opportunity of being given 1, 2, 3 places, you have opportunity to make choice. You can meet the landlord. Sometimes you can negotiate. If you can even be lucky. If you are a Chelsea fan, you go and meet a Chelsea landlord. You can have lots of. I'm telling you,
Are you serious?
That's
a good one.
So whereas in the absence of agent, you are just stuck. You just enter the street. You saw somebody that is only one place and maybe you enter the other street. You didn't get any. You enter the other street, so you are forced to go and get only that one person. You say, oh, that is the only apartment. And maybe by the time you finish paying, you learn 2 days later, oh, there was a better apartment there at a better price. So for me, agents are good. You can manage them. Let me also quickly add, even like the fees that generally they talk about 10%. I don't see anything much wrong with that. But one thing I can tell you authoritatively, there is some years ago that I had a friend whom I know was an agent, and I had a close my girlfriend then who needed a house, and I took the person there. The person said, oh, there is a house, and we went and we checked and we paid, and he said 10%. I said, no, I have 5% to give you, and he collected, and that deal was sealed within a day. And he told me that was great, the most perfect deal. So don't take for granted because somebody is your friend, you shouldn't pay the person. No, please. No. So I don't have any problem with agents. For me, agents have their roles to play, and I've been playing that very well. And for those agents who are bad, then you know how to avoid them in the future. And if for any reason, there is always a right where you can seek recourse through a lawyer and get counseling on how to go about if you have been if you are not satisfied with the services that they render.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barrister Benson. Before we get to what to guard against in the course of dealing with an agent, this percentage of the thing, whether it's 10% or 5%, who actually should do the payment? Is it the person who owns the house, who has received money, that should make a percentage payment to the agent? Or is it the one who has suffered to get money to pay and will still pay this percentage to the agent? Who should pay? Is it the owner of the house or the tenant?
I think the law is very clear. When you talk about agent, you are not an agent in a vacuum. You are agent of somebody. Whenever agency is mentioned, that means there is a principal. So who hired you? So if it is a landlord that hired you to bring a tenant, so by the time you bring a tenant, the landlord should be able to pay you.
Okay.
So if it is the tenant, I learned that there are even some agencies that maybe you fill form and they tell you when you pay you will give us. So if you fill form and agree that you will pay them 10%, I don't think that should be much of a debate. So whoever is for an agent should look for his principal to pay him.
So the principal can be either
It
the
could be either
landlord or the tenant.
or the tenant.
Wow.
So
wow,
when
wow.
that happens, it is a bit. In some cases, there are some cases where it could happen that with proper understanding, I've seen many where the landlord could agree to pay 5%, the tenant pays 5%. It's still a deal. We can always negotiate and get things done.
Boils down to negotiation.
Negotiation and understanding.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, barrister. As a lawyer, what do you think? What are those things you think a tenant, an intending tenant, should guard against when dealing with an agent? What are the red flags?
Dealing with an agent. I think it's in everything that you want to do. I'm sorry for the next statement that I want to make. You know, there is a book that I got some years ago. The title of the book is What Women Want Men to Know. I bought the book, and funnily, the prologue, they say the women don't even know what they want. So it's not in any way. It's not even. I mean, from the author. So, if you know what you want, then you shouldn't have problem. If you are looking for, let me tell a particular experience that I had. A tenant came once. There is a property that I was to oversee, and a tenant came once. He said, "Oh, this should be fixed. This one should not be there. The other one should not be there. Oh, they should have put this. They should have put this." And I look at him. I say, "Look, that is not your duty. Your duty is to take the tenant to go and show the property. Let the tenant assess it. Be honest with the tenant. That's the most important thing. Be honest with the tenant, because one of the problems I've discovered is that if agents go, landlord never, there is no water in that place. The landlord does not plan to dig water. An agent will go and tell the tenant, there is water. Or they will dig borehole tomorrow. And the landlord and the tenant comes to pay. And 2 weeks after, he doesn't see water. Those are the things and problems, the issues arise. So please go to a place, if it is a one room, find out whether there is toilet, ask the right questions, so that at the end of the day, you make an informed opinion. So don't come out later and come and cry when you didn't ask the question, you didn't do what you did, the little homework, and you want to blame every other person except the other. Where you have had that understanding, I think every other thing can fall into place.
Thank you so much, Barrister Benson. Don't deal on hearsay from the agents. Always take pains to go and assess that property before you pay for it, in order not to get yourself into problems that you may find it very difficult to wriggle yourself out. Deba, let's consider this matter of quit notice. What are the processes? What's the duration? What's the space, the time you should give? You know, what are the processes? In fact, what are the processes around issuing a quit notice to your tenant?
Thank you very much. I think the laws are very clear. We have particularly the tenants, the rent control law control. So it states clearly for every although that is not common these days, but the law still puts it. A weekly tenant is entitled to a week's notice. A monthly tenant is entitled to a month's notice. And to a yearly tenant is entitled to a 6 months notice. There is even a half-yearly tenant is entitled to a year's half year's notice, 6 months notice. And in fact, under the monthly tenant, the law states that where the tenant, if a tenant has been in arrears for up to 3 months, and he has not paid rent, then he's not even entitled to that notice. So that means you can simply move after, instead of if 3 months has passed, a monthly tenant he has not paid, you can move straight and give 7 days notice of owner's intention to apply to recover possession. But that provision is not very clear under the, like that provision that I put that is under the monthly tenant is not that very open under the yearly tenant. So many of our colleagues, and sometimes within the court registry, sometimes somebody's rent is part in at the end of April, and by the 1st or 2nd of May, they serve 7 days notice. That is not what the law says. That person is still entitled to 6 months notice. The best notice anyway to give is while the rent is still subsisting. So if, for instance, this is May, and somebody's rent is going to expire maybe by November or December, you can start now to give the notice so that the person will know that as he's going, as his rent is about to expire, his presence is no longer needed. He can begin to use the next 6 months to prepare for to look for a place. So that is always very, very good. So tenants are entitled, and the law takes it very seriously where the proper and adequate notices are not given.
Thank you so much. So you, the landlord out there, you have heard, the tenants you have heard, quit notice is best given while the rent is still subsisting. You don't need to wait until the rent might have expired before you issue a quit notice. And so we know how to operate. Those of you who are watching us, our viewers, you are now enlightened. We are open for your contributions and questions. We will answer these questions, or we will handle these questions to the best of our ability. Ete Cosmos, what is going on now in Uyo? There is this yelling, crying and gnashing of teeth by tenants that the house rents has been too exorbitant these days. What's your take on it? How do you see these things?
Thank you very much. I think, just like you rightfully said, it is one of a very topical issue. I think not just in Uyo, but generally, that the house rent seems to be very exorbitant. It is a double-edged sword. It is something to be viewed from two perspectives. One being that for some, the argument could be that, of course, the economy is quite biting. Prices are on the increase, on the rise. And, a bag of cement, say, goes for 12,000 naira as against 7,000 naira, 8,000 naira, even 5,000 naira, 4,000 naira some years ago. So that could also account for the exorbitant or the increase in the price rent. But again, just like Barrister Michael rightfully said, it's also about the individuals involved. A good person is a good person, and a bad person is a bad person.
Yes.
There are some landlords who are very greedy. There are some buildings that have been there for over quite a number of years, and you discover that nothing new has been added to this building. Nothing has been done on it, and there is no plan equally to upgrade the standard of the building. But you see, they will still keep increasing the price. Tell you that cement is very cost. So now for double for me, cement that you found. So over this is what have you done to improve on the structure? So it is very dicey. It just and again, most of these landlords, their livelihood depends on these buildings, on these properties. So you see, when they are making their budgets, when they are making their plans, it all revolves around what they are able to gather from the house rent. So that could also influence the prices. But again, we need to be human as humans. You actually understand that things are very, very tough, but you should know the way it is tough for you, it is the same way that it's tough for any other person. So we should try to balance these things to make life comfortable for ourselves.
Yes, thank you so much. Barrister Benson, it's quite unfortunate, just as he has mentioned, that some of these landlords, their means of livelihood, hinges on the rents they get. By your assessment, how unfortunate could that be? And what would be your advice to such landlords?
Well, let's say that the issue of skyrocketing house rent, that is not really a legal issue per se. That is really a socioeconomic issue. Because the real truth of the matter is that what is happening is what is economists will call demand pull inflation. The truth of the matter is that there is serious scarcity of houses. People are no longer able to build houses because of the high cost of building materials, starting from cement. Somebody told me that cement is as high as 13,500 naira now. And as of December, it was 10,000. So that means in 4 months, there has been at least 35% increase. That is simple calculation. And I know of a particular lawyer colleague of mine that called me, I think about a month ago. And I had a discussion with some people who told me, oh, he's building a house. I said, so when he called me, we were chatting. And I told him, oh, congratulations, I learned you are still building. He said, no, he had paused. So there are many people who have had buildings who have been forced to pause. Already it was not good. But now we are moving from bad to worse. So for the person who was trying to build a house, trying to see how to get in, he has not been able to come. That means he has to renew his rent. There are many people who have. I know of a particular lady who told me she has a land somewhere. She had given. I think she told me she gave the cement person as much as 500,000 for cement. But at some point, the cement person told her that she had that the cement has increased, and he had to get her money back. So if that person had been able to build his or her own house, he could have moved on. So there would have been more available spaces. But now there is no available space. So it's normal when 10 people struggle to get a particular property, a particular thing. It's normal that the price will increase. So it's simple law of demand and supply. So I pray. I think this is not just a matter of. I think there is need to pray on government. This is about government has to intervene to see whoever is having a serious monopoly and chokehold on building materials. And it's not enough to say on TV, on television, oh, we are doing this, we are doing this. The time has come to be, okay, let us look at sand. Sand is from our backyard here. When I did some renovation in my house, I think whether 2000 or 2021, I think I bought sand 14,000.
Yeah.
Now the last one that I had, I think whether 70,000. So the government, before we talk about Dangote cement that is far in Obajana or whatever, what is the government doing about the sand that is produced here? Undue taxes should be wiped out. So if we want to encourage housing availability, there is need for government to intervene. And this is not that at the end when election time comes, they come and say 200 and 200 and rise. That's not what is needed. So if in the absence of that, houses will continue to increase. In fact, pardon me if I add this example. I know of a particular client. He has a house, a three-story building. He had successfully put people in 5 of those apartments. It's a very 3-bedroom flat en suite. And people are really coming for the one is remaining. And he told me, but he said, don't worry yourself. And people came, and it's a real standard house, a new house, at a rent of 3 million naira per year. And he told me, people are they're ready to pay. The man said, don't worry yourself. But he said, I know how much is involved to put that place to the standard I want. I said, you can even collect 2 years. He said, but he said, you don't understand. I need at least 13 million to fix that place.
that he doesn't want to collect money from tenant, and the tenant will be hanging on his neck and say 2 months after he has not completed the place. So there is some money that he's expecting until he gets that money before he will be able to do it. So in the circumstance, you don't, so it's not even, you can blame the landlord for whatever it is. These are people who have gone, this is passing lots of streets to come and put that place together. I don't even envy those who are buying, who are building. It's not easy, it's not cheap. It can even make you run mad at some point because you buy something, something that was 100,000 yesterday, you go back the following day and it's 120. It is that bad.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Depa. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, what happens to a property where there is zero prospects of making any renovation? The house is by the day dilapidating, and you're still increasing the rent. What happens to such a scenario?
I think it still boils down to what I've said. The demand pull inflation. I have to admit to you.
Don't forget that the tenant is buying from the same market, the landlord.
I want to answer your question. It still boils down to what I've said earlier. The demand pull inflation. I must admit, if you have the misfortune of seeing where some people live, very deplorable. Very, very deplorable. But if the person went to a place, there are people who have been forced to, who were living in 3-bedroom flats, who have been forced to 2-bedroom flats. Yes. There are people who were living in 2-bedroom flats who have been forced to 1-bedroom flats. There are people who were living in 1-bedroom who are now being forced to self-con. I'm telling you facts.
That's true.
So there are people who were living in 1-bedroom. They're now just looking for just 2 rooms, then so that they can share toilet and kitchen. Before they went to go and get that flat, there was a problem that they were passing through. They are forced to go back to that point because of the economic situation. So the prospect, the old house, the person, the person that you say, you said it's an old house. You said it's not good, but 3 people are already lining up. 4 people are already lining up. The landlord has increased this to people. So but if you pardon me, there's even a trend that is going on now. There's a trend. Where you will see a dilapidated place, not in good condition, very bad condition. They will tell you price is a good price. They will ask you to pay 2 years, you pay. Sometimes there is no water. They say they will dig boreholes. They will. I'm telling you true life story. Sometimes some zinc were not you pay, and they say sometimes there were sometimes you pay, and what have you. And as the people collect the money, they start, if you are lucky, they start doing it. Sometimes they don't even do it. But if you are lucky, they start doing something. And as they begin to do, and the house begins to come up. For a 1-bedroom flat that you paid 500,000, because that house has now been repaid, it has now come up. Somebody has come to price 700,000. And the person now tells you, and before you know it, the landlord will start problem with you. If you don't want to live in this place, you can't pay this. In fact, I'm not giving you the house again. You come and collect your money. It's a very terrible trend, which I don't know, but for those who know their rights, the law can always provide remedy. But it's a very terrible trend, which I think even if I have to talk to landlords have to be very wary. What they are doing is very evil and very bad before God and man.
Thank you so much, Barrister, for staying very neutral, advising both the landlords and the tenants on how to go. You have to be very wary of how you handle your tenants. Don't say what you cannot do in order to get money from your tenants. So wonderful and amiable viewers out there, I hope we are learning lessons. Those of you who are planning to be landlords, and those of you who are tenants, and those of you who are even Alan, I hope you're learning from our discourse here. Let me chip in this, Barrister. In the event of living in a house, and the house begins to leak, who has the legal right to fix that?
That's the duty of the landlord to fix it.
Okay.
That's a fundamental issue. It's part of the structure.
But what if there is a delayance and the tenant has to fix it?
He can discuss that with the landlord. As I said from the very beginning, where you have proper understanding, a good, there is a house that I'm overseeing, and immediately you just tell the landlord, he takes care of it as soon as possible. So where you have a good landlord, and most of those things can be fixed, and as I said, with proper understanding, with the money, the landlord can also negotiate with the tenant. Okay, I'm not around, or I don't have money immediately. Please, fix it and put the bill as we be prepare the next, as you are about to pay the next rent, we can count it out. Everything can be sorted out where there is proper understanding and honesty on the part of the parties.
Thank you so much, Barrister Benson. Thank you so much, our wonderful friend out there who is very supportive, Anthony Johnny Bong out there, who is, of course, contributing immensely to this particular podcast show. Ladies and gentlemen out there, we have been discussing on landlord-tenant relationship matters arising, talking about exorbitant rents these days, especially in this our town, Uyo, and equally talking about the menace of some, not all anyway, some agents, house agents that put their unsuspecting tenants or clients into a very deplorable situation. That's it for this particular session. We have gone a long way, and so we have to leave the stage for another program to come in. I must really thank everyone that has come up to be with us from the crew who has been here with us. I thank the Uyo Catholic Media Center
It's a question.
for being with us. Yes, the barrister, you had handled the matter of leakage, who is responsible for that. Okay, on the Facebook page, we want to consider questions from the Facebook page, and so we will, of course, handle such a question. So we are expecting more questions to come up. Okay. The events of no question from the Facebook page. I want to thank you, our wonderful viewers, who have made our outing here to be very, very wonderful. I thank you for staying with us. It has been a wonderful time. We have learned from ourselves here. We have heard from the legal point of view. We have equally heard from our brother Cosmos Eshet on how he views this thing as a layman, and other people how we view the hardship. Let me get this question. Victor Ekanem here says, nice show, guys. I want to know, must there be an agent? Can't the landlord just deal directly with the tenants? I think before now, Barrister Benson had delved into that matter, but you can throw more light on it, just like a nugget, in order to help the questionnaire. Perhaps he wasn't online with us when you had handled that.
Somebody says, must there be an agent? There must not be an agent. If you can go and see your landlord, who says there is no law that says you must pass through an agent? So you can go and see your landlord. I don't see that as a problem at all. I think we have stated at length it's all your choice. If you want to use an agent or you want to go alone to look for your property. I don't think there is any landlord that you will go to, even if. Let me put it this way. Sometimes this is what we call power of attorney. The agency is sort of attorney given to those people to help the landlord get a tenant a prospective tenant to the property. So the residual powers to rent that house generally is in the hands of the landlord. So there is no, even if the landlord has told 5 people to go to, told 5 agents to be the ones to bring somebody to that property. If you go directly, if you maybe a friend who is not actually an agent or somebody who lives in that compound or nearby compound, tell somebody and somebody goes directly and meet the landlord will not likely ask you, did you pass through an agent or whatever. So if you have gone directly, you can still get your house, and the issue of agency fee or whatever will not come in at all.
Thank you so much, Victor Ekanem. I hope that has succinctly handled your question. I want to thank everyone out there, notably Michael Savior. Thank you for being with us. Victor Ekanem, thank you for that wonderful question. Of course, it has helped very many people out there. Pius Godwin, Joseph Friday, Sebastian Christopher, Samantha, Daniel Uko, thank you for being with us and watching us live. Patrick Stanislaus Uko, Martin Zebong, Owido Obasudoko, Anthony John Ebong, Ekom Obong Dennis. It's been wonderful having you watch us live. Bernard Okon, Abibela Sunday, Amikedo Etimbo Umana, Mrs. Thank you so much, dear viewers. Thank you. Every time that you're here with us, it keeps us alive and gives us that sense of belonging. And we know that you out there, you are learning one thing or the other. What you had known before, you are being reminded. Before we quit the stage, just a piece of advice to our viewers out there. Mr. Cosmos.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ezekiel. I think we've done so much on this issue. As some piece of advice, I will always say, try as much as possible to be a good person, to be a good human. And again, when you are dealing with an agent or with a landlord, a prospective landlord, please always try to ask the right questions. And don't just depend solely on what you've been told by the agent. Try to see for yourself that these things are actually in existence, I think. And also, there's something we've not really delved into. The instances where you just get an apartment without getting a receipt for this apartment. And without also getting to know what is really expected. So it's good we ask the right questions, know our rights at all times. Don't take laws into your hands. The law, of course, is always there. You can seek redress in cases of where you feel that your rights have been infringed upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cosmos. I like the very last submission. Don't go and live in someone's property illegally. Ensure that you get a receipt in order to authenticate your stay there. A piece of advice from Barrister Michael Benson.
Thank you very much. I think let me just put it this way. Let me end with where I started. If you are not a good person, you cannot be a good tenant. If you are not a good person, you cannot be a good landlord. So let's pray. Thank God that most of us are very religious people. So let's pray that you, being a good tenant, pray that you will meet a good landlord. So the landlord, let the landlord who is a good landlord, let him pray, or let him or her pray to have a good tenant. One thing that I can tell somebody, I sometimes tell people is that I'm first and foremost a Christian before being a lawyer. If you are a good person, there is nothing that cannot be handled. Where there is honesty and transparency, whatever the problems, it could be handled. But where selfishness, greed, and just wanting to exploit and extort from another person comes into play, there is no amount of law that the person will look at. It would be interest, because selfishness has a tendency to overwhelm every other aspect of human being. It doesn't matter whether the person, it's not about the title, whether the person calls himself pastor, or calls himself lawyer, what have you. Anybody can be a bad person, but if you are a good person, no matter the obstacle, it can be handled through proper understanding, through proper speech, where a compromise could be reached, and in such circumstance, the landlord and the tenant could have a very good relationship.
Thank you so much, Barrister Michael Benson. Very wonderful viewers. Be a good landlord. Be a good tenant. And if you're an agent, be a good agent. Thank you so much for being with us. My name once again is Ezekiel Utang, aka MC Black. I've been sitting here on this discussion with Barrister Michael Benson and Mr. Cosmos Eshet. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, which you, of course, you have already started, and the other day for your holiday. Cheers.
So that every day we got to keep on fighting. They made the world so that every day the people are dying. Hey, from hunger and starvation, lamentation, but read it in Revelation. You find your redemption. Are you forgive us the teachings of this majesty? For we don't want no devil philosophy. Are you forgive us the teachings of this majesty? For we don't want no devil